the human chain from Tallinn to Vilnius, standing there in dignity and just asking for their freedom.
I think it was one of the things who gave me the will to fight for them.
Denmark have the foresight to rock the boat at the right time.
I was foreign minister and I had an interest in the Baltic countries.
He mentioned me not once that, my personal task, my personal goal, to make sure that Baltic states will be members of NATO.
We did our the best because we have very high motivation. Comparison to the hockey, this is very similar.
Without team, you're nothing. You can be great, you can be the greatest, but you can't win.
We were not always the best friends, but we managed to make a great team.
Because they are Olympic champions! Latvia 3-2 in overtime!
Buvome jauni, užsispyrę ir taip, mes tik tai kaip komanda laimėjom.
The brave people of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia will never again stand alone.
Basketball is really Lithuania's second religion. One can say that NATO is also a second religion.
At that time, Danes did a lot. They took a risk. They helped us to realize and implement the task, which was, for many of our opponents, felt it's not realistic at all.
The 3 Baltic flags. Oh, that was one of the moments.
You are part of NATO, you have also responsibilities, and this is like a family.
One for all and all for one. And whether you are small or big, you have the same obligations and the same rights. Because alone, we could do nothing. Nothing at all. It's the brotherhood of small countries. I was foreign minister, and I was foreign minister for quite a long time, from 1982 to 93. And I had an interest in the Baltic countries.
People say that the most powerful man in Denmark has his position here at the balcony. It was very simple. He was the guy who was regulating the sound of the parliamentarians.
I became very interested in the story of the Baltic countries during World War II. And the plight of the 3 countries, because it might have been Denmark who ended up in that situation. Imagine what would have happened if the Red Army had occupied the Danish islands. They might have been there until 1991. And that dawned upon me that our fate could have been the same as your fate.
An artist above it wrote, "The cat's play is the death of the mouse." Of course, meaning you should be careful what kind of laws you make.
That was the only country that sat at 2 very most important tables. Denmark was a member of NATO, and Denmark was a member of the European Community.
The big nations in Europe, they didn't want to bring them in. Because Gorbachev is so important to us. Please don't rock the boat, but we rock the boat.
He mentioned me not once that, my personal task, my personal goal, to make sure that Baltic states will be members of NATO. At that time it was fairy tale.
So I took contact with the Prime Minister and with leaders of the political parties in our parliament and said, I think we should re-establish diplomatic relations now.
And I remember when we're knocking these doors, which according Article 10 of NATO Treaty, doors are open, but nobody knows where is the key. I was told by future allies ambassadors directly, not publicly of course, but I was told you've never been members of NATO.
Yeah, there were some reluctance from some of the allies or some of the European member states, but we simply had to convince them that it's really our goal, and we were able to do that.
We are in Adaži military base, which is the biggest base in Latvia. One for all for one. It's in the military. We can match this and can see these parallels.
I have been in Adaži in military base, and there have these trainings, hard trainings with the backpacks. Like I have more heavier than mine. I'm the last line in the goal, but I can't take all the shots. It's crazy how fast the puck is going, around 140 kilometers per hour. I loved the place from everyone else because I know if something will happen to me, there is 5 guys on the ice, much more on the bench that will protect me, help me all the time.
The goal is one, to win a war. So in AFI, the comparison to the hockey, this is very similar.
You feel that your teammate will be there for you, even doesn't matter what. Passion for the sport and for the teamwork and everything, it's crazy.
Can you believe it? 5-4 for Latvia!
There goes. Nice one. There you go. Nice. Even the weather. Nice. Sure.
I was maybe too young to understand what I'm doing, President Brazauskas invited me and said that you will be minister. I said, you're joking, I'm 32.
Being as commander of our forces in Denmark, we moved a little bit more close to Denmark.
We were enthusiasts, we knew what we want to do, but definitely needed some coordination. And that was clear already in 93, especially 94, when all these multilateral frameworks were established. Baltic Battalion was most famous at that time in 94, peacekeeping cooperation of Baltic states.
Thanks to Denmark offered and other nations accepted that Denmark will play a leading role for the project. That means that Denmark took all the coordination role among all the supporting countries who decided help to the Baltic states.
Right now we are Parliament of Estonia, and this is a main place where usually all our work is going on, and most important decisions are taken here. all different Estonians, political parties invited me to become part of Estonian politics, but then I wasn't ready, because when you do high-level sport, you just think one thing, what is your goal, and you do every day just to become Olympic champion. And my father loved to say that the best athlete is like a horse, that you have to hold it back. If you do hard work every day, year by year, then you can be as strong.
The prevailing mood was motivation and idealism, I would say, what I'm missing these days.
The message was very clear. The three Baltic states has a great will to show and demonstrate their belonging to the Western society, but not like users of security or any benefits what Western world is offering, but as equal contributors to the Western security policy.
I'm 57 years old, so I'm a product of the Soviet educational system. But I was privileged. I joined the Sporto project. That where I have foundation of the rest of my military career. I learned soldiering as it must be.
The beginning starts, in fact, in 1993. The Danish Home Guard General was visited 2 years anniversary for the Day of Liberation of Lithuania. And then those generals there, they just talked about what help do you need. They said we need to train our officers in leadership and in instructor things. And that means that then they look around, where can we do that? We could do that in the Danish Home Guard School. So when he came home from Vilnius, they just called us and said, be ready to take up to 20 officers from Lithuania next summer.
That was a really big event for me that time, to be sent to Denmark, where I had never been before. And that's how journey started in Denmark.
The guy up there, he was also commander in CASP before. He didn't speak English, I remember. He spoke only French.
I was sent to Denmark to attend the exercise planning course. That was state who had excellent programs for leadership training, for instructor training, education or methodology training.
All of them have a story to tell. All of them had families who has been deported, or they have been even killed by the Russians and things like that. Everybody had a story to tell. And what also was very, not strange, but important was that they want to do something for their country.
For example, I can tell that we had very little possibilities to fire live ammunition in Lithuanian armed forces. So we had possibilities to use all Danish equipment given to our responsibility in according with the Danish standards.
He was one of the first ones who came to Denmark and got the Danish officers training in the Danish Army Academy. For a couple of years he lived with his family here in Denmark. To see them standing there and get their diplomacy for this course, and they had tears in their eyes, and then they turned around, were standing up and said, for Lithuania, things like that. That hurt us a little bit here.
Žinot, aš kai pradėjau treniruoti Lietuvos krepšinio rinktinę, aš jau radau tą dvasią. Aš išėjau, aš girdžiu ir kiti treneriai, ką sako, po manęs irgi ta dvasia yra ir niekur nedingo, jinai visą laiką bus. Apie 90 metus tai mažai kas tikėjo, kad pavyks iššokti iš Tarybų Sąjungos. Mes buvom niekam nežinomi, mes buvome jauni, užsispyrę ir taip, mes tik tai kaip komanda laimėjom.
Turbūt nemažesnis džiaugsmo protrūkis šiuo metu vyksta Lietuvoje.
Lietuvių komandos ypatingai išsiskiria būtent tuo tokiu komandiniu jausmu.
Basketball is really Lithuania's second religion. One can say that NATO is also a second religion. NATO membership was so important for Lithuania.
Actually, I even wrote my thesis when it comes to possibility for Lithuania to joining NATO. So I had discussions with some of my colleagues who told, do you really think that it will happen during the nearest years? I said, yes, it was only a matter of time.
It was a visit of Minister of Defense, my friend Hans Hagerup, to Lithuania. We were flying to Klaipėda to visit our ships of our navy, and we went by 2 helicopters, Mi-8 Russian helicopters, very noisy by the way. It was impossible to talk during the flight, so we were writing messages to each other. And I remember, what would be the idea, what do you think if we would send our soldiers within your battalion to the mission? He wrote, good idea. Then I wrote on the top agreement and signed, gave him. He also smiled, signed, and when we took off, his advisor said, you will never fly alone anymore.
So one of the first things we actually did was to start operating together. That was in the 90s in the Balkans during the wars and the UN and NATO operations where our 4 nations actually worked together.
This operation took half a year for every rifle company. Also, headquarters and logistic company task group was deployed to Bosnia-Herzegovina together with the Danish battalion also to gain experience.
We could easily recognize that we had the same military values, and of course there are different cultures. But for me, cultures, even though they always are different, it's not a challenge. I actually see it as an opportunity.
When I played in Barcelona, we were a team of a lot of nationalities. We were not always agreeing on everything, and we were far by the best friends, but we managed to make a great team. I think my qualities was that I'm a good team player. I was always good in attack. I was quite good at, foreseeing the play, where to position myself, where to receive the ball. It's always easy to recognize a guy who makes a lot of goals, but it's more difficult to recognize the guys who make the work on the other side.
The teamwork is everything. And everybody must commit 100%. Lower than 100% you kill your buddies. The team is strong, and team effort is what needs to be done.
We had the President Mary here in the school here. The President asked if you could brief him about the Danish Home Guard. Yes, I can. I did it next morning, and when I came, then the President said, my secretary, she wants to swim in the North Sea. Then we were out for swimming, and the secretary only. And then we went down here, and this house was not cleared from the intelligence. So they were very excited. You cannot go there. No problem. We don't hurt the President at all.
It started in the Baltic Battalion, because the Danes were one of the lead nations there. And then it followed on with the Baltic Defense College. I was a student there, but later ended up as the commandant of the Baltic Defense College. That college now is not even a project anymore. That college today is an organic part of the Baltic states' educational system. This is organic to all of us.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of the United States of America, George Bush.
Then I remember there was a public event in Vilnius with the American president.
You're joining the strong and growing family of NATO. Our alliance has made a solemn pledge of protection.
And in that speech he said the words that you can now read on the wall of the town hall.
And anyone who would choose Lithuania as an enemy has also made an enemy of the United States of America.
It sounded like poetry at that time.
The brave people of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia will never again stand alone.
And then people who were standing there started to say, Achoo, Achoo, Achoo. And he looked bewildered and looked at the Damkus and said, are they sneezing? And the Damkus said, and so loud I could hear it, no, Achoo means thank you. And then George W. Bush turned to the crowd and said, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Nerushka.
Without team, you're nothing. You can be great, you can be the greatest, but you can't win.
Žmonės, kaip Baltijos keliai, močiutės verkė, mes važiuojam kaip kažkokie, nežinau, didvyriai.
And I always enjoyed making goals.
They are Olympic champions!
It was now or never, like, you know, your mind was kind of ready just for this day to become Olympic champion.
At that time, Danes did a lot. They took a risk and they helped us to realize and implement the task, which was, for many of our opponents, felt it's not realistic at all.
Joining the NATO was the second best idea among the Baltic states. The first one was to gain independence.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Oh, that was one of the moments the 3 Baltic flags.
I had some injuries and I decided to quit professional. I don't know what was the feeling. Maybe it's because my father is also a doctor and also a traumatologist, like I will be in a few years. NATO soldiers, they're coming from all over the place. They're training and they have injuries and they're coming to me to the hospital with broken legs and arms, and we are treating them. From all the stories they're telling me, the feeling is the same as I was in my hockey team. It's amazing.
Danish and Baltic defense cooperation will remain strong and will continue actively in the future.
We are, of course, focused at participating in deterrence, making sure that we actually have the ability to defend Estonia and Latvia should that be necessary. We are doing that by training our forces, by training our headquarters, and making sure that we can actually master all the tasks that a division headquarters should be able to do if it is needed.
And the Danes are remarkable. They're among the most active participants in this air policing mission.
The basic idea of NATO, the so-called musketeer oath, one for all and all for one. And whether you are small or big, you have the same obligations and the same rights. And the way the world looks today, showing that kind of solidarity is more important than it has been since World War II.
It's like a wake-up call. You start to think that, oh my God, where we are. You start to think, oh my God, the freedom. Is it like used to be freedom? Do we have to be thankful? Do we have to work for freedom?
Then yes, everybody were afraid that, okay, when Ukraine has been invaded, then what next?
Often I've been asked the question, will NATO come to our assistance? That's actually a very wrong question. Who is NATO? We are the NATO. So the question has to be rephrased and said, will NATO defend itself? Of course it will.
And many of my friends, who knew that I worked with NATO, said that, thanks God you did this job, or thanks God you got us to NATO.
I feel safe. Really, I feel safe. I know, I believe those words. I know that whatever happened, we are not alone.
Today, Estonia is proud to host Danish soldiers as part of the NATO battle group, Commitment of Denmark to collective defense and presence in our region is a superb example of NATO strength and unity, and we truly, highly appreciate it.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine has changed the world as we have known it since the end of the Cold War. I grew up on Bornholm. As you know, the Baltic countries all have a special place in my heart. We have a unique friendship, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania and Denmark. No one can take that away from us. We are strong together, and we have so much more to achieve together.
Since the beginning of independence, Denmark has been very helpful to Latvia in developing its defense capabilities. Also now, when our soldiers are serving together in NATO operations, and Danish soldiers are in the Baltic region to help us to tackle all the problems, we can say that our cooperation, friendship and solidarity is rock solid.
We have also learned from your faith that we should never take this freedom for granted.
We have walked a long path during the last 3 decades. We are committed and close partners, and staunch allies and friends. As for the future, we should boldly project our visions of cooperation together. And we should work hand in hand to help those building free and democratic societies in our neighborhood. We are strong when we are all for one and one for all.
All for one and one for all.
All for one and one for all.
One for all and all for one. Because alone we could do nothing. Nothing at all.